So the Injustice movie is upon us, and I was super excited to watch it. And then, yeah, let's just get into it. So let's start off by talking about the animation. So it's very much what we saw in Mortal Kombat Battle of the Realms, and I enjoyed it overall. I think that the various DC characters, they while it's the same overall animation style, each character, because of the way they appear, because they're superheroes and they'll have their own costume and design, they do all tend to, I think, complement the animation as far as adding something new and being more unique. So I think I can give it kudos for that. Now, the only thing that was bothering me about it was, and I'm pretty sure you might notice this, when you were watching their hands and like their knuckles, it was just like black bars or like black hyphenated bar, black dash bars. So it was just kind of like distracting because I kept looking at people walk by and thought, oh, what is that? What are they holding? Is there something on their hand? Like it just kind of kept popping up, and maybe that was just me, but yeah. So I loved the animation overall, except for the weird black line knuckle thing. Moving on, let's talk about blood and gore. So, of course, this being Injustice in a R-rated DC animated movie, which I think they should have just made it PG-13 and just, maybe skewed it to where we didn't actually see the Joker getting killed when they showed it in the non-Red Band trailer. But overall, I mean, this movie tries to use blood and gore in much a sense just to kind of think to maintain that rating. I guess what I'm trying to say is there were points in the movie where it seemed necessary to have the blood and gore. So obviously, with Superman killing Joker to get revenge, and then there were even times where, Superman maybe just went too far. There are other times where we have villains that show no mercy and just basically kill heroes, so there's blood and gore. But there were other times, like where Superman's fighting Solomon Grundy. I don't think we needed to go there and do all that. I think he could have been subdued. So there were some parts where I think it felt displaced, like it didn't really need to be there, and it was just there to maintain the rating. Okay, so next up is the what the heck moments. I could have put WTF or the real what the hell, but I went with what the heck moments because, spoiler alert, there's some stuff that happens in this movie that I'm just like, why did you do this? And it kind of, there's one thing that happens that totally affects my view of this movie, and I will just go ahead and talk about it. Spoiler alert, turn back now if you've not seen the movie, but spoiler alert, the Flash dies in the beginning. What the heck? Now, as a Flash fan, I don't appreciate that my superhero is just killed off, and the way he is killed off is so stupid. I mean, he basically walks into the Scarecrow's lair, and Scarecrow toxins are released, and it causes him to hallucinate, and he feels like things are grabbing him from the floor, which really to stop him in his mind from moving. But then all of a sudden, there's like a trap set, and a blade comes out and basically kills him. I guess decapitates him or something. What the heck? I don't approve of that at all. That's the dumbest thing, and I don't know why you would take the Flash out just like that. Now, I know that the Flash plays pivotal roles in a lot of movies, and maybe he's overused, but you didn't have to do that. You could have made him a secondary character in the film. Next, what the heck moment is Nightwing. Let's talk about that. Nightwing dies, and his death is very like, what? So this is an Arkham Asylum, and it's heroes versus heroes versus the criminals, and Damian Wayne throws his, bat baton or whatever it is he's meant to throw it at, I think, Calendar Man or somebody, and he ends up hitting Nightwing, which is Dick Grayson, in the side of the head. Now, when I saw this, I was like, oh, I know there's like special points in here, like, you're just right, you're dead, but he hits him with such force, just in the right spot on his head, that it basically kills him. Are you kidding me with this? I mean, I'd rather him die a gruesome, bloody, gory death than that. I was just like, really? Now, a lot of people online, especially Mortal Kombat fans who have seen not only the Mortal Kombat movie, but Mortal Kombat Battle of the Realms, have linked, similarities with that in Kung Lao, because Kung Lao got crappy deaths in both movies, and now we have that with Nightwing. Yeah. So those are my what the heck moments that really kind of set the tone for this movie for me, as far as like, either we're going to go there and then we're going to make stupid decisions about it. So I did want to highlight real quick that there are some uncommon characters that take the spotlight from the more traditional characters we see in the DC universe. So what I mean to say is, usually this movie is pretty much as far as Injustice, it's the Justice League versus the Justice League versus the Justice League. I almost said the Injustice League. The Justice League versus the Justice League. And you basically have two factions, one with Superman and Wonder Woman kind of, and with Batman, and they kind of go against each other. So we kind of get that in the movie. But there are a lot of heroes that don't participate, and that means that some other characters kind of come to the forefront that we may not be familiar with. I know I wasn't for the most part with some of these. So one is Mr. Terrific, and he does a lot of multiverse time traveling. You have Plastic Man, which I'm familiar with Plastic Man, but I think in this movie he got, more front and center scenes, and he was the actual hero in the movie. And we also have Deadwing, which I had never heard of. I know he is in the comics for Injustice, so I know that, but I had never seen or heard of him outside of that. And he is basically Dead Man, who we've seen in Justice League Dark, fused with Nightwing. So Nightwing actually becomes Dead Man instead of Dead Man becoming Dead Man. So that's what that is. And the scene where he becomes Deadwing is just kind of very confusing. You're like, so instead of going to heaven, you're chosen by this god, or this spiritual entity. It's kind of weird. So there's those heroes that we get to see. And then on the flip side, we have some villains that we're maybe not so familiar with, such as Amazo, who his canon has changed just a little bit. He's a android that adapts to the hero's abilities. He kind of reminds me of something like from Dragon Ball Z, one of those kind of androids. But instead of being created by a mad scientist, he's created by Ra's al Ghul, or Ra's al Ghul in the League of Assassins team and scientists. So we got to see him, and a lot of people may not know who he is. I know I didn't at first, but we got to see him being there. And so, yeah, we got to see some of the characters. Now, one thing I will say is I'm really curious why DC is so fascinated with Calendar Man. Calendar Man, I feel like, has been in so many movies now. He's been in Suicide, or he had a cameo in Suicide Squad. He was in Batman Long Halloween 1 and 2, which I know in that comic book series he's kind of a part of that. But then we also have him in this movie, and I know he's just a villain in Arkham, but they give this guy so much screen time. It's just kind of like there's nothing really special about him, and yet we keep making him relevant. Just wanted to point that out. All right, so let's talk about the meat of the movie, the story and the runtime. So this movie seems short and a little bit all over the place. It kind of seemed as though like the writers didn't think they're actually going to get an Injustice 2 movie, so they had to try to cram as much as they could into this one. And it just kind of was like, you kind of feel that when you're watching the movie. There are even some times that like the movie plays out like a comic book, and I think that's where like the Deadwing part, like it doesn't feel like it makes any sense. Like I mean, you'd have to be familiar with the source material that much to know what's happening. If I was just a layperson or a casual viewer watching this movie, I would be totally confused as to how Nightwing dies and just goes to this entity and becomes Deadwing. And it's also the fact that, these heroes and villains die, and yet it's as if they act like nothing ever happened and they just go on with their life. Like the next day, it's like, oh, Justin died, and we move on. I'm just like, that's crazy to me. Like there's little remorse. Now, in saying that, I don't think we got the full Injustice experience. And what I mean to say is, I feel like this movie does its best to give us a taste, or like almost send us over the edge of the full Injustice experience as far as setting up the new world order of what Superman is trying to achieve, and having a autonomous world where there's no violence, only peace, and he's the one that helps maintain, along with Wonder Woman and other superheroes on his side. And I feel like we get there in some small increments, and then it just doesn't ever go anywhere. It just, there are not enough lines drawn in the sand to make that much of a divide. Yes, he lost Lois. He kills the Joker. He's on a rampage. Yes, he loses his dad, which the way the movie is paced, talk about just a big one too. You lose your wife and your unborn child, and then you're gonna lose your dad just shortly after that. I'm like, goodness gracious! If I was Superman, yeah, my humanity I would be questioning it too. I'm just like, what the heck did I do to deserve this? So this movie, it just doesn't really feel like we're getting enough of what we need to get to make it feel worthwhile. There are parts that I did enjoy about it, was like with Batman and his relationship with Superman, which, they do have this kind of, Catwoman's his best friend. I don't know if it's so much like that, but, he does see him as his closest ally, and he respects him, and he cares about him. And so he does try to have hope and faith and trust in Clark, even though we know he's quickly going to the other side. So I like that they talk about that and we get to see that kind of play out. But they just didn't go there as far as I wanted Superman to be ruthless, like he is in the comics and in the game. I wanted them to go there because otherwise we don't really have any clear and present danger other than just trying to stop Superman in basic scenarios that we could do outside of Injustice. That's what I'm trying to say. I wish we'd have gotten to the New World Order. We kind of did with little Mr. Terrific autonomous balls that were like, trying to be Big Brother and scan for, heroes and villains and other things going on. We kind of with the Mazo. But I wanted it to be where, almost like the Man in High Tower situation where the world is flipped on its side and you have this world that we're now living in that's run by Superman. That's what I kind of wanted. And I wanted it to be where Batman is like the refugee, the opposing force, the opposition that's trying to take down Superman and what he has built. That's what I wanted to see. And I feel like because this movie didn't get enough runtime, I think it was like not even an hour and a half. I think it was less than that. It gave us a lot of stuff and it gave us a lot of action, but it just didn't, I think overall, it just did not feel like an Injustice movie to me. So let's talk about a sequel. I don't think there will be a sequel. So I think this movie resolved way too quickly. As I said, I don't think we got what we wanted, at least what I wanted out of it. I know there are things that I enjoyed about this movie. I think, like I said, we got a taste of what Injustice is. I just don't think that it was what I feel like some fans really want from Injustice. And because I think it resolved way too quickly, we're not going to get an Injustice 2. I just don't think it's going to happen. And what's frustrating is there's so much more story to be told that we're never going to get to see. Like, at the first fourth of the movie, when Superman's like saying, you either follow me or there's nothing, and like the Justice League just starts to break up and fragment, you got the lanterns going off. We only can see Green Lantern for a little bit and that's it. But all the other lanterns go back to Oa. We have Aquaman and Atlanta. He's like, you're not going to have your rule and law over me. Okay, so we never get to see them anymore. We have like the Justice League Dark crew with like Constantine and Zatanna and all them. They're like, oh, we're out. And there's other groups that are out too. So I'm like, you never get to see all these characters. And you're just like, but they have to participate because there are too many of them not to be feeling the reach of what happens in Injustice. So it's kind of just like, what's really going on here? This becomes like a real small scale Metropolis, not even Gotham story. And it just didn't work. And I think that I was hoping for a sequel. I think this movie would have been great if they had this. Tell us why he went mad. I say mad. The Joker kills Lois Lane and his unborn child. Maybe his dad does die. These things just push him over the edge. He does that. He kills the people in Gotham City at the rave party that were Joker supporters. He does that. But maybe he doesn't really turn Wonder Woman. Maybe she thinks things will get better. And at that moment, he enacts the New World Order part of what he's trying to do and really have his regime, lay down the law of Superman. And I feel like that could have been like a cliffhanger. And then from there, the second movie could lay out. this could have been in 3 parts. And in the second one, you have like the constant battle in between. And then like at the cliffhanger, the second one, you could have like the big bad villain, like, you could have some other villain come in and try to, take over knowing that Superman is being occupied or, word gets out that something happened and they come and they try to do something and then they resolve either by working together or one group gets taken out and the other one saves the world. It could happen like it's supposed to happen. So, Brainiac, we could do the Brainiac thing, stuff like that. So that's why I wanted it to go. So I could be wrong. We could get us an Injustice sequel if this is really popular, but I don't think I'm the only one that has this kind of view about the movie, so I don't think that's going to happen. So I did want to talk real quick about Injustice 3 and what this could mean for Injustice 3, and I don't think it means anything good for Injustice 3. I think the fact that we had I think it will pique people's interest. I think it will pique people's interest, and I think it will satisfy some fans of Injustice and DC overall. Don't get me wrong, I always support DC in animated movies, that's why I watch them. and talk about them constantly, but I don't think that this, I think if we had a better, quality over quantity, and in this case, I think DC animated movies should think about that and give us a really good animated movie, then people would want to see more Injustice, more talk about Injustice, get it talking. I mean, this could have easily been turned into this could have set the stage for an Injustice series on HBO Max. I mean, I just don't think these people really think about the opportunities at hand and what they could do for the franchises. So when it comes to Injustice 3, which we think possibly could have an announcement at DC Fandom 2021, which is next weekend, I don't think that's going to happen. I think that this movie will do nothing for that. And given that there's no sequel and no continuation, I mean, if you think about it, the game, if it got announced, would not come out this year. It would be next year. So why not ride the Injustice high, right? Okay, I'm going to release an animated movie. I'm going to announce a new game. Interest peaked. People talking, trend. I'm going to release a second movie to continue the story. Near or around when the game is going to come out, I could even have done a third one after the game came out to continue the franchise going. I mean, it seems such common sense stuff, and then people just aren't doing it. So when it comes to Injustice 3, I don't think this is going to do anything for that game. I think this is just a one-off, and it's sad to see that happen. So in saying all that, if I had to give a rating for Injustice, I'm going to give it a generous 3 out of 5. I think it actually deserves probably less than that, but I really am sad that this movie is just not what I thought it was going to be. I was really hoping it was going to go there. I wanted to see, I mean, he didn't have to be evil Superman. I mean, that's not what he was. He is, he has lost faith in humanity, and he's trying to take things in his own hands. And some people agree with him, some people don't. I just wanted him to see vengeful Superman that will do nothing but get his way. And I just don't think we really got that. I think we got a taste of it, and then bing, bang, boom, it was over. And you're just kind of like, oh, it was that easy. If it was that easy, why was I so worried about it? There were a lot of character deaths I don't think needed to happen. Like I said, I don't agree that the Flash should have died. I think he should have been a staple in the whole series or the whole film. And yeah, I'm just not really... I was excited to watch it, but I left disappointed. And I think that with some of these DC animated movies, I'm feeling a lot like that this way. I think the third act just really gains some steam, and then in the middle it kind of starts losing it. In the third act, it just flops. Like, all these movies are really doing that, and I just don't understand. I think that whoever is in charge of DC animated movies, they need to really look at these and start making some changes. So that's my review for Injustice. Let me comment below if you agree with my review. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. And yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, are you going to watch Injustice? That's it for this video, guys. Enjoy that like button. For more on this one, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time on the Mashup.